Hi, Weirdos. It's Thursday again. My name is Mackenzie, and I am joined, as always, by...
I'm Chris.
And I'm Sarah.
And this podcast is for Weirdos.
Hey, Mackenzie.
Yes. Well, we're talking about a haunted location today.
Ooh. Which one?
We are going to be talking about today the RMS Queen Mary.
That's the sound of me leaving my body.
Oh, okay. That's a new sound. Huh?
Exciting.
I didn't know I could make that sound.
It's pretty impressive.
That's good. What, if any, do you guys know about the Queen Mary?
This is the sister ship to the Titanic. Yes?
Kind of.
Sort of.
Yes.
The cousin ship.
Cousin. I would say cousinship, yes.
It was like the
not
sisters are Olympic and Britannic.
Yeah.
I was like, what's the other one?
I do have comparisons of her to the Titanic, which we'll get into later.
Excellent. That's it.
Okay. Oh, good. What do you know?
That's it?
I think so.
That's fucking crazy.
Maybe as you speak, I will have things and go, yes.
Okay.
But
I know a lot of things, but I don't want to spoil any of the stuff that all of the stuff that I know is like big spoilers for the hauntings, and so I'm just gonna be like, I know a lot of things. I've watched this on several different paranormal television shows.
Understood.
Go.
Okay. So,
Are we doing history?
yeah.
Hell
We are
yes.
going to start with history, and I'm going to just preemptively, I have a lot. There's a lot. The ship is old.
It's an old boat.
I've
Old
got a lot
boat.
of history. It did a lot of things while it was active.
Right.
So,
We gotta talk about that.
we do. And if you think we don't, maybe you shouldn't listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The history is how you get the context for the spirits.
And
Yeah.
We need it.
for those that have been
have to know.
listening the whole time, we have once again done the thing that we have done several times. We're in planning for episodes. We've gone, yes, this topic sounds interesting. I would like to do it. And then upon starting the research going, it's supposed to come out right by an anniversary.
Right.
We've once again done that. The day this episode comes out, the day you should be hearing this, should be May 28th, 2026. Today is not May 28th, 2026.
Today's Easter.
Today is April the 5th. But the 90th anniversary of the Queen Mary's maiden voyage is May 27th. Of 1936.
So
yesterday. So yesterday was the official 90th anniversary of the maiden voyage of the Queen Mary,
wow.
which I was,
Wow.
That's crazy.
which I think is really neat.
It is very, very neat.
But I do think it's funny that we keep unintentionally planning things near anniversaries without. What was the what's the gut instinct, Claire? That
that Merowyn gave us?
yeah.
Claire
Aliens?
No, that's the sniffer.
That's sniffing one.
Shit.
Gustance? That's taste.
That's taste. Claire.
Is it the eye one? It doesn't matter. It's like the gut instinct one, I feel like, is like that. That's the thing that keeps happening to us.
Oh yeah, when we keep accidentally planning
Yeah.
things in a certain. It's an intuition thing.
Yeah.
Like, I want to do this one around this time. I don't know why.
So, shall we?
We shall.
We shall.
Okay. So the Queen Mary, a majority, all of my major information in regards to the history of the vessel came from the Queen Mary's website.
Sweet.
So all of her history, all of the timeline, all of the stats, all comes directly off of the Queen Mary's website.
Amazing.
When we get to hauntings, I have a friend of mine that worked on the Queen Mary for a number of years. And he gave tours and such of the boat. And so I didn't know that. They do paranormal tours on the ship. I can look it up at the end if we want about how much it costs if we're ever going to California. But he was a tour guide and did all kinds of things on the Queen Mary. And so all I had asked was, hey, did you ever have any paranormal experiences on the ship that you'd be willing to tell me about?
Right.
Because I was like, at least I can include those, if nothing else, and, whatever. Because I have also seen the Queen Mary on 8 billion paranormal TV shows.
Right.
And instead, I got 4 parts of multi-paragraph Snapchat messages that I think is the gist of the paranormal tours on the ship.
Oh.
So
That's cool.
Mixed in with some of his own personal experiences that are not necessarily tour related.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing it's like kind of jaunty tour base with a little bit of personal anecdote
Right.
mixed in. But I'm very thankful to him for providing me that information. That does not take away from the fact that I would like to go visit the Queen Mary.
Right.
Yeah.
None of that has changed. I just had it's a good relationship that I have that I was able to utilize as a primary source.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
The Queen Mary's creation and launch was a big deal at the time that she was built. And her story is super full of history, elegance, and grandeur, according to the Queen Mary's website. Her construction began in 1930, and they say she was destined to stand in a class all her own.
You gotta quit saying shit about boats like that.
I
mean,
know.
she's fine, but we gotta quit saying
I know.
this boat is the boat.
This is the boat.
So, she was built by the Cunard Line.
Okay.
Is the ship builder or the shipping company that built her. And the legend has it that when when they were looking to start the project of building a new liner, they were going to name the ship Queen Victoria to match the traditions of other ships that have the IA at the end. So their other ships were Mauritania, Aquitania, and Berengaria. So they were going to name it Victoria. And they asked, per protocol, because it's a British-built ship, they asked the king, which at the time was King George V, his blessing of the ship's proposed name, saying, "We have decided to name our new ship after England's greatest queen, Queen Victoria," meaning her who was that King George's grandmother. Upon which the king is reported to have saying, "My wife, Queen Mary, will be delighted that you are naming the ship after her."
Cute. Very
because
fun.
of course, to Queen George, his wife is
to Queen George.
To Queen George.
to
Queen
King
George.
Yeah.
His wife, Queen Mary, would be the greatest queen because
he's
he's a good man that loved his wife.
That's so cute.
His wife.
His wife. He's a wife guy.
Wife
When
guy.
was this? The 30s?
The 30s.
That's Queen Elizabeth's dad.
It is Queen Elizabeth's dad. We'll talk about Queen Elizabeth briefly.
Yay. Queen Elizabeth II.
Wife guy, George.
Wife
Yeah.
guy, King George V.
King George V. Wife guy.
So on May 27th, 1936, the Queen Mary departed Southampton, England. Embarking on her maiden voyage, she boasted 5 dining areas and lounges, 2
Wow.
cocktail bars and swimming pools, a grand ballroom, a squash court, and even a small hospital.
A small hospital.
The Queen
Squash
Mary
court.
had set a new benchmark in transatlantic travel, which the rich and famous considered the only civilized way to travel. She quickly seized the hearts and imaginations of the public on both sides of the Atlantic, representing the spirit of an era known for its elegance, class, and style. She retired from the sea as an active liner in 1967, and she has never been more popular than she has as the iconic Southern California attraction, hotel, and venue for special events. Overall, the ship carried 2.2 million passengers in peacetime and 810,000 military personnel in the Second World War. But in Long Beach, an estimated 50 million people have visited her.
Wow.
That wasn't at 1 second.
I did it did take me a second to
Yeah,
go.
I was like, he thinks that means all at one time.
No, since
You know,
since she opened as an attraction, about 50 million people have visited her.
And
Yeah.
all of the other numbers were also like,
Yeah.
in peacetime, total.
Yeah,
she
that-
had this many passengers.
That's what got me. I was like, "There's no way that this boat
We're
had
gonna get
2.2
into
million
the,
fucking people
the
on it."
different capacity times that she has
Hers
had.
stats.
The day that the ship was launched in 1934. Remember, launching comes before official voyages.
Right.
A well-known English psychic, Lady Mabel Fortescue Harrison, would predict the Queen Mary will know her greatest fame and popularity when she never sails another mile or carries another fare-paying passenger.
She was right.
Which
Yeah.
is very interesting.
As a museum.
Yep.
Which I thought was interesting that they included that, because I'm sure somebody wrote that down and went, "What the fuck?" You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
They were like,
Some
well, the other thing is
Some
like, you
lady
know,
said
you're
some
making
weird
you're making a like ocean liner situation, and somebody says that, and this is, you know, I mean, we're in 2026, and Titanic is still at the forefront of most people's minds all the time, I
Yeah.
assume.
for
when
sure,
talking
it's yours.
Well, when talking about like
ships
ships and ocean
wrecks.
liners and cruises and that kind
Absolutely.
of stuff, like it's always right there. So then her being like, she will be the most famous when she never
probably like,
sails another
"She's
mile.
gonna
They're like, she's
fucking
gonna sing,
sing.
she's gonna
She's
sing,
gonna
she's gonna
sing.
sing, she's gonna
Fuck.
sing.
She did not. That
She
was
didn't.
never a thing that she had happen. So now we're going to go through a timeline we're going to go 1929 to 2023.
Okay.
It's not all, some of it's some big
Chunkies,
jumps.
yeah.
Some of it's more close together.
'Kay.
But
I'm ready.
But I was excited about it.
Yeah.
For April 3rd, 1929.
Yeah.
Chairman Sir Thomas Royden at Cunard Line's annual meeting makes the first official announcement that the question of new tonnage is one constantly in our minds, and begins plans for a new pair of super ocean liners to replace the Mauretania, Aquitania, and Berengaria on their North Atlantic route. Okay. So they have announced that they're going to start work on 2 new liners to start phasing out the other 3 liners that are aging.
And they want to make bigger ones.
Correct. On May 28th of 1930, Cunard announces John Brown and Company as the builder for the new liner.
Okay.
And then on December 1st of 1930, they lay the keel plate.
Okay.
Separate but in tandem at the same time that the ship's construction is happening, on June 30th of 1931, they start construction of the King George V's graving dock. So that's a dry dock. That's a British term for dry dock. On December 11th, 1931, work halts on job number 534, which is what the job was known as prior to being named.
Right.
Okay.
Because of the Great Depression, oh my God, and an inability to secure further bank loans. At the time that they had to stop construction, the hull plating was 80% completed, and the ship was already standing 9 stories high.
Wow. Christ.
On July 26, 1933, the King George V graving dock is officially opened by King George V and Queen Mary. They come in on their fancy super yacht for the 30s or whatever and do a whole, royal ceremony. Because that's what you do in England.
Yeah.
December 30th of 1933, a merger between Cunard Steamship Company and the White Star Line is signed, but it does not go into effect for a few more months.
Yeah.
But they signed the agreement that there will be a merger that happens.
The White Star Line is the one of Titanic. If
correct.
you didn't know that somehow.
So that's why they
They
compare
are
the
related,
Queen Mary
yeah.
to the Titanic. On May 27th, 1934, the North Atlantic shipping bill passes, and the British Treasury makes advances of £4.5 million towards Job 534, I believe, in 1934 money. Like, she was expensive.
Yeah.
At the same
Expensive.
time, they went ahead and made the advance for a maximum of £5 million for the other ocean liner. They didn't mention more about that.
It doesn't matter.
besides,
We're talking about the
so.
Queen Mary.
Yep.
We don't care about her.
And then
We only care about the
on
Queen.
April 3rd, 1934, construction resumes on job number 534.
Gotcha.
May 11th, 1934, rivals Cunard Line and White Star Line are forced to merge. The effective date for transferring the assets of Cunard Steamship Company and the White Star Line to the newly formed Cunard White Star Ltd. And Cunard was credited with 62% of the share capital, and White Star was 38% of the capital, which is important later.
Yeah.
Okay.
On September. I don't know what just happened. I'm having a stroke.
Those letters don't look anything like each other. The numbers are completely different.
It's fine. September 26th, 1934. Job number 534 is launched and named the Queen Mary by Her Majesty Queen Mary, accompanied by His Majesty King George V, and the ship is moved to the nearby outfitting basin.
Cute.
Fun.
So
She goes,
For
I
those
hereby
that have
christen this
never-
boat Queen Mary after myself.
for those of you,
Rose
for
shipping.
any of our listeners that have never dealt with ship construction in any capacity before, the launching of a vessel usually means all of the interior work still needs to be done.
Yeah,
but
the
it
outside
can
is
but it
done.
can float in the water, and they can check that the hull will not take any water on
Before they put
can
all the
float and
fancy
before-
shit
somewhere
inside
else.
of
yes.
it.
So before they put any outfitting, fancy shit, engines, etc., inside of it, they want to make sure that the hull is sealed properly and will not leak.
And that way they can make sure
It's
that
not gonna
it's
just
not going to
sink.
leak. And also they can get it out of the fucking shipyard bay to do the rest of the work. Because
And-
she'd be floating.
If something does go wrong, they don't lose all their fancy shit on the inside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I was like, before they put all the shit inside.
So the next day, September 27th, they begin installing the boilers. So she must have been fine upon launch.
Yeah.
And then November 6th of 1934, they begin installation of the engines.
Okay.
On March 5th, 1936, oh my God. I want everybody to be a queen because girls are better. King Edward VIII does his inspection tour of the ship
Yeah.
in the fitting dock.
Yeah.
On March 24th, 1936, she departs John Brown Shipyard, steaming down the Clyde River to Gourock, Scotland. The ship goes aground twice, despite prior dredging of the river and her shallow draft. Anchor trials and adjustment of the magnetic compasses are made off of Gourock. 20 of the Queen Mary's lifeboats were left off the ship to save weight, but because they were manufactured in Gourock, they were lifted into their davits upon the ship's arrival. So at the time that this is happening, I know people are going, she should have all of her lifeboats. There is base skeleton crew on board to move the ship. There are not additional passengers. They are moving and testing the ship with as minimal people as required to operate it.
Yep.
And that's important to know.
Also, I want to correct my earlier remark where I said, "Is this one the one that is Queen Elizabeth's papa?" This is not Queen Elizabeth's papa. It's Queen Elizabeth's grandpa.
Yes.
The Edward is her uncle, and then the next George
Is
her
her
dad.
On
Because it goes Victoria, Edward, George, Elizabeth.
on the March 25th of 1936, the Queen Mary performs her preliminary speed trials on the way to Southampton. A speed trial is to make sure that her engines do get to the correct nautical miles movement that she's supposed to be able to make.
And that the hull doesn't explode.
And that nothing falls apart. Like the engines don't blow up, the hull doesn't fall apart. You know, shit doesn't happen when she makes speed.
You want to check that theoretical hull speed and make sure that your hull doesn't rattle apart.
Yeah.
Correct. From March 27th until April 8th of 1936, she is dry docked at the King George V graving dock. From April 15th to April 19th, 1936, she is doing her official speed trials in the Irish Sea off the Isle of Arran. Arran? I don't know. British
A-R-A-N.
A-R-R-A-N.
Aaron.
British Olympic runner Lord Burleigh runs one lap, 400 yards, in evening dress around the promenade deck in under 60 seconds on April 19th.
Why?
Fuck if I know. It was on the thing and it made me giggle that they included it because I was like, why is that on your history? But
A man ran a lap.
it must have been a big deal that he
A
did
fast
it
lap.
in fancy clothes because he did it in his fancy clothes.
I don't know. Maybe they probably were like, "Hey, You're an Olympian and you did really good at the last Olympics. You should come run on our new ship.
On our new boat.
And then we can put it in the newspaper.
That's
Yes.
honestly exactly probably what happened.
Probably.
On
Publicity stunt.
May 12th of 1936, the ship is officially handed over from John Brown Shipyard to Cunard White Star Line at exactly noon,
Exactly. On the dot.
Exactly.
which is really just a fancy signing of paperwork. That's all that
Yeah.
is. You turn over who the captain is and you turn over paperwork.
You gave him the keys.
Yep.
There aren't any keys, but you gave him the keys.
Yep. Because we're getting ready to do for the new training ship, where we have christening next, and then we'll have delivery and turnover. So we'll have a similar, not ceremony, but a similar thing happen. Because they have to turn over from Tote to Marad / us. Anyway, on May 25th, 1936, King Edward VIII, Her Majesty Queen Mary, the young Princess Elizabeth, the Duke and Duchess of York, soon to be King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, and the Duke and Duchess of Kent and the Duchess of Gloucester visit the ship. Queen Mary presents her personal standard to the ship. It was displayed at the head of the main staircase on the promenade deck and is now located aboard the Queen Elizabeth II.
Cool.
On May 27th, 1936, the Queen Mary departs Southampton at 4:33 p.m. on her maiden voyage, arriving in Cherbourg, France at 8:47 p.m. and departing at 12:39 a.m. the following morning. On June 1st, 1936, she arrives at Pier 90 in New York City at 4:20 p.m. Her crossing time was 5 days, 5 hours, and 13 minutes for her maiden voyage.
That's pretty quick.
Impressive.
On August 31st, 1936, on her 6th round-trip voyage from August 19th to 31st, the Queen Mary wins the Blue Riband for the fastest North Atlantic crossings from the French line's Normandy. Her eastbound record is 3 days, 23 hours, and 57 minutes. The Normandy wins back the honor in 1937.
Wow.
And then August 15th, 1937, the Queen Mary won back the Blue Riband from the Normandy on her 48th round-trip voyage with a record of 3 days, 20 hours, and 42 minutes, and then holds that record until 1952.
Okay.
That's so
So
fun.
we'll revisit that in
In a couple years.
a couple years.
When we get to 1952.
On October 10th, 1938, she docked without the aid of tugboats in New York. She was commanded by Commodore Irving. It was her voyage number 53 west.
Nice.
Which is
Irving Finkel.
docking without tugboats is a big deal for a ship of her size at
Yeah.
the time that was happening.
Yeah.
They did not have the same level of stabilizing and
They didn't have
movement
thrusters.
Impressive.
that we have today.
Talented commander.
Do it all the time on the Alyssa.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And that doesn't even have fucking engine hardly.
August 30th, 1939. So a number of years before I was born.
But on her birthday.
It was on my birthday, but many years before I was even a thought. About 60. She departed Southampton on her final peacetime voyage, carrying her largest number of passengers, which was 2,552.
Okay.
That included J.P. Morgan, Bob Hope, and millions in gold bullion.
I like that you were like 2 people and also gold.
Well, that's what they have on
I
their
know.
list.
They just were like, it's like, carried her passengers. J.P. Morgan, Bob Hope, and a bunch of gold.
Houston Bankman.
On September 2nd, 1939, the crew began the process of blacking out the portholes. And on September 3rd, 1939, England and France declare war on Germany.
Yeah.
On September 4th, she arrives in New York. So she was already in transit to New York when they declared war.
Yeah.
And then we're skipping to March 21st, 1940. What they are calling the birth of the Gray Ghost, which I guess is what she was known as when she was a wartime vessel.
Gotcha. Ooh.
She departs New York for Sydney, Australia to be fitted as a troop ship, and accommodations increased from 2,140 to 5,500.
Yeah, when you're putting sailors on board,
Yeah.
you can
Squish 'em.
Squish 'em.
Yeah. You can hot bunk.
Yeah, you don't need to put a bunch of staterooms.
Nope.
You can just take those walls out.
Yep. So May 4th, 1940 was her first voyage as a troop transport. She sailed in convoy with the Aquitania, Mauretania II, Empress of Britain, Empress of Canada, and Empress of Japan from Sydney to Gourock, Scotland with 5,500 troops. From August 5th to September 16th, she was dry docked in Singapore and had paravanes fitted. On December 13th, 1940, her hull was damaged when entering the dry dock in Boston Naval Shipyard, and while she was there, her troop capacity was increased. On February 8th, 1942, she was dry docked in Boston Naval Shipyard from January 27th to February 8th, and again, her troop capacity was increased. It does not say to what, but she just keeps getting her stuff increased.
Put them in smaller spaces.
Throw extra beds in there.
Yeah.
Yep.
From February 18th to March 28th, what they call the 40 days and 40 nights voyage happens from Boston to Sydney. At the time, this was the first time the Queen Mary carried American troops, and she carried 8,398 troops and 905 crew members.
Jesus.
That's
So they
a
added
lot.
3,000
Yeah.
just in troops.
Correct.
Wow.
That was banana.
On May 16th, 1942, this was her May 11th to 16th voyage. It doesn't say to where. There were more than 10,000 people traveled on a single ship for the first time. The ship carried 9,880 troops and 875 crew members.
Jesus Christ, they've added another 1,000.
And then from
how
August 2nd to August 7th, 1942, it was the first time a complete division was carried on any ship. The 1st Armored Infantry Division consisted of 15,125 troops and 863 crew members.
15,000?
15,000.
So we've added 6,000 from the last number we had.
They're putting them up on the top deck.
Yes.
Sleep up
Remember,
there
when
in the
this was a
sun.
cruise ship, 2,000.
Yes. We've added 13,000.
We've added 13,000 people.
Yes. On October 2nd, 1942, she collides with the British light cruiser Curacoa. 70 tons of cement are used to temporarily patch the bow in Gourock, Scotland. From October 14th to November 2nd, 1942, she was dry docked in Boston Naval Shipyard to install a new, more permanent bow piece because they went, concrete ain't going to do it no more.
It's not going to fix it forever.
From December 23rd, 1942 to April 22nd, 1943, the long voyage went from Gourock to Suez, Sydney, Australia, and returned to Gourock. The total mileage covered was 37,943 miles. The ship was transferred to the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah. Wow.
From May 5th to May 11th, 1943, Winston Churchill was transported from Gourock to New York to meet with President Roosevelt. Additionally, there were 5,000 German prisoners of war on board.
Wow.
From July 25th to the 30th of 1943, the Queen Mary carried the greatest number of people on a floating vessel, 15,740 troops, 943 crew, totaling 16,683 people.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
From August 5th to
That's
August
8
9th.
times as many people
Yes.
as she was designed to carry.
Yep. From August 5th to August 9th, 1943, Winston Churchill was once again transported from, he was transported again. He went from Gourock to Halifax, Canada for a second Quebec Quadrant Conference.
Yeah.
And then on August 31st, 1943, Winston Churchill returns to Scotland with 15,116 troops.
Jesus.
On June 6th, 1944, the D-Day invasion of Europe happens. On April 19th, 1945, the armaments are removed from the Queen Mary with the exception of the 6-inch gun. On May 8th, 1945 is VE Day, so Victory in Europe Day. On August 1st, 1945, 14,883 troops and 1,000 crew are transported. So that totals 15,883. On August 29th, 1945, the funnels are repainted Cunard colors. So she is coming out of wartime operation.
She's going back.
She's going back.
She's going back home.
Between February 3rd and May 19th, 1946, there were 6 war bride voyages that transported a total of 12,886 European brides and children to the United States and Canada.
Wow.
Huh.
From May 23rd to September 18th, they did 7 war bride voyages, transporting European brides and children to Canada. There were 10 stowaways discovered on the first crossing. So
You gotta.
you gotta.
Sometimes you gotta just go to Canada.
Sometimes you said, I just gotta get the fuck out of here.
Get to Canada.
Yeah.
I want to go see a moose. I gotta go see that.
On October 2nd, it flipped it for whatever reason. The date had been month, day, year. For whatever reason on this entry, it was day, month, year. And I went, hold on, it's not February. She docked in New York without the aid of tugs again, which is cool.
Wow.
And then September 27th, 1946. Maybe it was. I don't know. That's out of order. Doesn't matter. That's on them. I pulled the order directly off of their website.
Yeah.
From September 24th to the 27th, she made her final military voyage from Halifax to Southampton. From February 15th to May 3rd, work to restore the ship for passenger service begins at the King George V dry dock. So they're putting walls back up and making her look pretty
And
again.
they're making the staterooms again, and
Yeah.
they're putting in carpet, and they're painting, and they're making it not smell like stinky soldiers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're washing all the linens.
From May 3rd to July 24th, 1947, furnishings were reinstalled after being recovered from different ports around the world, as she had to strip stuff off. She begins participating in post-war sea trials in the English Channel from July 23rd to the 25th in 1947, and met the Queen Elizabeth, the ship, for the first time during peace off the coast of Southampton in the Solent just off Cowes.
Woo!
So she got to meet her
buddy.
her buddy.
Her buddy ship.
Friend.
July 31st, 1947, she departs on her first post-war voyage from Southampton to New York with 1,897 passengers, 1,280 crew members under the command of Commodore Illingworth.
Okay, so 2,000 people.
So we went
Yeah.
back to 2,000
back
people.
to what it should be.
Correct.
And about 1 crew member to every passenger.
Yeah.
So beginning in 1947, the date on this is December 31st, 1949, but context. Right. So in 1947, the Cunard shareholders acquired the 38% of the Cunard White Star that they didn't already own, and in 1949 bought out the entire company operating individually as the Cunard Line. The Cunard Line and White Star had initially merged in 1934 due to economical issues. From June 15th to June 20th, 1951, Walt Disney sails aboard the Queen Mary to attend the European premiere of Alice in Wonderland.
Wow.
I know him.
I know that guy.
I know that guy.
Not personally.
Not personally. And he's dead.
He is very dead.
December 31st, 1951, Winston Churchill and Foreign Secretary Anthony Eden sail aboard the Queen Mary to visit with President Harry S. Truman. Whew, sorry, that was gross. I felt a burp coming and I was scared. It was fine. July 7th, 1952, the SS United States secures the Blue Riband from traveling from Ambrose Light to Bishop Rock in 3 days, 10 hours, and 40 minutes. The Queen Mary had held this award since August 8th of 1938. So, a good run, even though there was war, and we're just going to not pay attention to that.
Right.
January. That one was
That one
better.
is at least two J's.
January 5th, 1953. From December 30th to January 5th, Winston Churchill sailed. He loved the Queen Mary, if you couldn't tell.
Yeah.
He says, "Someone give me that pretty boat."
He sailed to meet President-elect Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Okay.
On November 24th, 1954, she returns to the Queen Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth, the person, not the boat, returns to England aboard the Queen Mary after a 3-week goodwill tour of Canada and the United States.
Cool.
March 26th, 1958, stabilizers were installed aboard the ship at the King George Dry Dock from January to March. So about 3 months she had stabilizers added to her.
Nice.
Shocking that they didn't do it sooner, but, I mean, technology had probably just gotten there. So, whatever. She did a record turnaround in New York of 17 hours and 58 minutes on April 23rd, 1958. In the early days, the ship would be in port for 36 hours, so she turned in about half that time.
Dang.
February 1st, 1961, she transported 36 tons of gold and silver from Southampton to New York.
Wow.
Doesn't say why, but they used passenger ships as cargo ships pretty commonly for stuff like that. What they call the beginning of the end of her useful service. May 9th, 1960, not May, my God, March 9th, 1962. I can read my own fucking notes. Waves flood parts of Main A and B decks, which is on voyage number 382 east.
Oh,
so
no.
she takes on water.
No!
She did some docking maneuvers that they were excited about in October. In December of 1963, she did the first cruise from Southampton to Las Palmas. And in 1966, she did a Mediterranean cruise from February 25th to March 23rd, covering the following destination: New York, Las Palmas, Tangier, Piraeus, Naples, Cannes, Palma, Gibraltar, Lisbon, Madeira, and then back to New York. So I thought that was pretty neat.
It is pretty neat.
So that trip ends March 23rd. April 1st, Cunard announces that the Queen Mary is for sale.
Oh.
Is
So
it a
they
joke?
No.
Damn.
Okay. They said it was April 1st. So
I
was
know.
like, what a silly joke they were pulling.
On May
what
30,
year?
1966. So they had just done this big Mediterranean tour. Everybody gets off a week later. Hey, she's up for sale.
That's crazy.
March 31st. No, May 31st. There was the first letter of inquiry from H.E. Ridings of Long Beach in regards to the sale of the Queen Mary.
Cool.
On August 4th, she did the fastest turnaround ever in the, she did time in the graving dock. It was the fastest turn out of the dry dock that she had had.
Neat.
And for the first time, she sailed with passengers out of the dry dock, not just crew.
Oh.
That's crazy.
Which is abnormal.
Yeah.
Hardly ever do you sail out of dry dock with passengers. You only ever
That's
usually sail
strange.
with crew.
Yeah.
Because in case something goes wrong coming out of dry dock, you don't have extra people on board.
Right.
August 24th to the 29th of 1966 marked the fastest eastbound crossing she had had since her Blue Riband record, with a time of 4 days, 10 hours, and 6 minutes.
Wow.
It was also the second fastest Atlantic crossing she had done since 1938.
Good job, boat.
Which, she's getting old, so the fact that she's still able
getting
to...
up there in
she's-
years.
The fact that she's been operating as both a wartime ship and a passenger ship for about 30 years.
And she's still
And she's still able to go fast, which
Still
is
kicking.
crazy.
Zooming.
On May 8th, 1967, the Queen's captains, the Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth's captains, open orders telling them of this decision that they are selling the Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth. On May 25th, 1967, it was the first meeting between Lord Mancroft and Long Beach, California representatives in New York over the sale of the boat. On July 27th of 1967, a $3.45 million bid by Long Beach was accepted. So it was sold to Long Beach in 1967.
Cool.
In September and October. In September, she did her final eastbound transatlantic crossing. In October, she did a cruise from Southampton to Las Palmas and Gibraltar. And on Halloween in 1967, she departs Southampton on her final voyage to Long Beach.
Wow.
And arrives in Long Beach, California on December 9th, 1967.
She left on Halloween? Oh, she has to go
All
through
the way
canal.
around, yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. They're probably also taking their time.
Right.
On December 11th, of 1967, she was removed from the British registry and officially turned over to the city of Long Beach. And she also became fully dependent on shoreside utilities at that time.
Yeah.
So they took her off of all of her own power.
She's like a fancy hotel.
Yeah. So from April 6th to May 18th, the ship was dry docked at the Long Beach Naval Shipyard. And then in February of 1971, she moved to Pier J, probably from the Naval Shipyard area. And then in May of 1971, the Queen Mary Story and Powertrain Tour and the upper decks opened for weekends only. So they're slowly starting to open her for tours. And then December 11th of 1971, Jacques Cousteau's Living Sea portion of the Museum of the Sea opens.
Wow.
In February of February 20th of 1972, they had their largest day's attendance at 19,600 people attending the ship. Whoa. In March 1st of 1974, the first 150 hotel rooms opened. So they had finished enough of the conversion. Mm-hmm. Not a ton of conversion, but they made the staterooms more like hotel rooms and less like staterooms. October 1st of 1976, the Queen Mary Tour, Inc. takes over operation of Museum of the Sea. In September 1st of 1980, Ratherport Properties Limited signs a 66-year lease to manage the Queen Mary and its adjoining acreage. On May 14th, 1983, Howard Hughes' Spruce Goose flying boat opens to the public next to the Queen Mary.
Right.
In March 29th of 1988, Walt Disney's company buys Rather Corporation for $152 million. The agreement includes the Disneyland Hotel and the management of the Queen Mary and Spruce Goose properties.
Huh. That's crazy.
January 1st, 1992, the city of Long Beach resumes responsibility for the Queen Mary from the port of Long Beach as far as naval standards, is my guess.
Gotcha.
On March 1st of 1992, the Aero Club of Southern California announces the sale of the Spruce Goose to the Evergreen International Aviation, Inc. in McMinnville, Oregon. And March 6th of 1992, Disney advises the city and Port of Long Beach that it will end its lease for the operation of the Queen Mary and Spruce Goose. The company agrees to operate the attraction until September 30th, 1992. In October, the Spruce Goose heads to Oregon.
Uh-huh.
On December 31st, 1992, the Queen Mary closes. In February of 1993, Joseph Prevratil, president and CEO of the RMS Foundation, Inc., signs a 5-year lease with the city of Long Beach to act as the operators of the Queen Mary. So she wasn't closed for super long, but she was closed for a couple of months.
Yeah.
In February 26th, 1993, she reopens to the public. The self-guided and guided captain's tours resume. Most restaurants and their Sunday brunch are back.
Sunday brunch.
Nice.
Happy Easter.
March 5th, 1993, Hotel Queen Mary reopens with 125 operational rooms, and the banquet rooms are operational again.
Cool.
April 17th of 1993, they begin audio tours again interestingly, in English, German, Japanese, and Spanish. Are the 4 languages they offer audio tours in.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
Which I thought was very interesting from the history of that vessel. The remainder of the Hotel Queen Mary's 365 rooms reopen on April 30th of 1993.
Okay.
On May 12th, this is sad. On May 12th, 1993, Captain John Treasure Jones, the 33rd and last captain of the Queen Mary, dies at the age of 87.
Oh, R.I.P.
So, that is a big sad.
The end of an era.
Truly the end of an era. The last acting captain of hers had now died. September 26th of 1994, they do the Diamond Jubilee celebration for the 60th anniversary of the launch and naming of the Queen Mary. And then on May 8th of 1996, they celebrate the 25th anniversary of its opening day as a museum. Okay. They do more. In 1996, they do lots of maiden voyage celebrations and jubilee and such.
Yeah.
May 31st, 1997, Titanic, the Expedition exhibit makes its West Coast debut aboard the Queen Mary.
Ooh.
Which is a interesting exhibit if you ever get to see one of those styles of exhibits. December 9th, 1997, they celebrate 30 years in Long Beach. February 23rd, 2006. I don't know why I want it to be May really bad. 2 Cunard legends meet for the first time. The new Queen Mary II sailed into the port of Long Beach and greeted her historic namesake, the original Queen Mary. The 2 ships saluted each other with their 1-ton signaling horns. So
Neat.
they had kept the Queen Mary's horn. They keep the Queen Mary's horn operational.
That's cool.
October 28th, 2007, the Queen Mary's amateur radio station, W6RO, is renamed the Nate Brightman Radio Room in honor of Mr. Brightman's more than 40 years of dedication to the station.
Wow.
Which I think is sweet. In 2007, she celebrates 40 years in Long Beach. In May of 2011, she celebrates the 75-year anniversary of her maiden voyage. In June of 2012, Diana, the Legacy of a Princess Royal exhibit premieres at the Queen Mary.
Cool.
In 2020, March of 2020, Los Angeles County issues a safer at home order in response to the pandemic, which limits ship operations. In May 7th of 2020, she is fully shut down outside of essential maintenance and security as a response to the pandemic. In June of 2021, full ownership of the Queen Mary is given back to the city of Long Beach after the previous leaseholder files for bankruptcy, which makes sense with the timing. And in April of 2023, the Queen Mary reopens tours for the first time following the pandemic, and the hotel reopens a month later.
Wow.
So she has not been back in operation for that long. Considering.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all of her timeline history.
Sweet.
Woo!
That was a cool timeline.
I'm sorry, that was very long.
It was long, but it was a neat timeline.
Now, stats will move much faster, but I have stats between her and the Titanic.
Okay.
So the commissioning groups, obviously the Queen Mary was commissioned by the Cunard Line. The Titanic was commissioned by the White Star Line.
Mm-hmm.
The Queen Mary was constructed by the John Brown and Company out of Clydebank, Scotland. And the Titanic was constructed by Holland and Wolff Belfast in Belfast, Ireland. The keel was laid for the Queen Mary December 1st of 1930. The Titanic was laid March 31st, 1909. The Queen Mary was launched September 22nd, 1934. The Titanic was launched May 31, 1911. The maiden voyage for the Queen Mary was May 27th, 1936. The Titanic's maiden voyage was April 10th, 1912. There were 12 decks on the Queen Mary versus there were 9 on the Titanic. As built, the Queen Mary's capacity was 2,038 passengers, and the Titanic's passenger capacity was 2,440. The Queen Mary had 24 motorized lifeboats. The Titanic had 16 clinker-built and 4 Engelhart collapsible lifeboats. The Queen Mary had 1,174 officers and crew, and the Titanic had 860. Now for some measurements. The Queen Mary's overall length was 1,019 and a half feet. The Titanic was 882 feet and 9 inches long. The beam of the Queen Mary is 118 and a half feet. The beam of the Titanic is 92 and a half feet. The gross tonnage of the Queen Mary is 81,237 tons, and the gross tonnage of the Titanic is 46,328 tons. Both of their hulls were made of riveted steel. Their hull plating was both riveted steel. There were 10 million rivets on the Queen Mary and 3 million rivets on the Titanic.
And the rivets are what caused the Titanic to sink. Because they switched what kind of rivets they were using as they were getting close to the end of the project.
Yes. Mm-hmm. The keel to top of the funnel, so the tallest part of the ship, is 181 feet for the Queen Mary and 175 feet for the Titanic. So they were only 6 feet off.
Yeah.
The Queen Mary has 160,000 horsepower. Lots of horsies.
Wow. That's many horses.
The Titanic only has 46,000 horsepower.
Huh.
The cruising speed for the Queen Mary is 28 and a half knots, and the Titanic's cruising speed was 21 knots. The maximum speed of the Queen Mary was 32 knots. The maximum speed of the Titanic is 22 and a half knots. The engines on the Queen Mary were Parsons single reduction geared steam turbine engines, and the Titanic's engines were triple expansion steam reciprocating turbine engines. There were 27 boilers on the Queen Mary and 29 boilers on the Titanic. The Queen Mary consumed 1,000 tons of fuel per day. The Titanic consumed 825 tons per day. The Queen Mary took bunker C fuel oil, and the Titanic took coal.
Yeah.
The draft of the Queen Mary was 39 and a half feet, and the draft of the Titanic was 34 and a half feet. For how tall out of the water both of those ships sat, that is a pretty shallow draft.
What was it?
39 and a half feet.
Yeah, that's
It's not a lot under the water. The Queen Mary had 2 sets of Denny Brown stabilizers. The Titanic did not have any stabilizers. Both ships had 3 anchors. They had the exact same length of anchor chain, which was 1,980 feet total in anchor chain. There were 3 smokestacks on the Queen Mary, 4 on the Titanic, but one of them was a dummy. So
Yes,
technically, they both had 3 smokestacks.
yes. There was an extra one because odd numbers look bad.
Yeah. There are 4 propellers.
That's
on
literally why there's 4 smokestacks on the Titanic, was because they thought 3 looked bad.
That's fine. I just think that has changed since then. That people prefer odd numbers now.
People prefer odd numbers if they're 3s or 5s. They don't prefer odd numbers if they're anything else.
Yeah.
Like a 7, visually,
Not great.
not a number people like.
The Queen Mary had 4 propellers. The Titanic had 3. And the Queen Mary's rudder weighed 140 tons. And the Titanic's was 101 and a quarter tons. And that's all the stats and measurements I have.
Woohoo!
Do you have any questions about any of the history or stats or measurements?
Nope.
Okay. Ghosts.
Yay,
Spooky, spooky,
The
spooky.
reason that we're here.
The reason for the season.
I
mean, actually, yeah, the reason for the season is goats.
Yeah.
The goats?
Goats.
Goats?
Jesus. For us.
For us.
It's Jesus ghost time.
So this is the information that comes from my friend Gil. So, yay, thanks, Gil. During her 31 years of service, she had a total of 57 deaths, consisting of
Wow.
both passengers and crew. Deaths ranged from workplace accidents to medical emergency. The 57 deaths are officially recorded in the ship's logbooks and records.
Good.
However, any of the deaths that occurred during war service from 1939 to 1945 are not recorded.
Okay.
Right.
So there could have been many, many more deaths upon that ship that are not written down anywhere.
Right.
But in her time as a passenger vessel, there were 57 recorded deaths. So at minimum,
57.
57.
57.
Probably
That we know of.
a lot
57.
more. She definitely has she has a very high reputation of being a haunted vessel, and people often feel eerie when they if they're wandering around at night.
Yeah.
It feels a little weird, especially because it is a hotel, so there are people on it at night pretty regularly.
Yeah.
People often report feeling or seeing apparitions in their cabins or public spaces, and these accounts. You can do it on their website. If you see a ghost while you're there, you can turn in your story to be told. So the ship's crew, as they are recorded and confirmed, and then they are shared by the ship's crew. So they are not
Cool.
apologetic about their paranormal history, which is kind of fun.
That is pretty good.
So the information that I received from Gil is allowed. He was allowed to share it with me because he was a former member of the ship's crew, and it was all things that he shared with the public in general.
Gotcha.
So I'm not telling anything that
Mackenzie's not telling any secrets.
I'm not telling secrets. Because they usually wait to start sharing something super publicly until it's reported more
frequently.
Yeah.
So many people assume that the Queen Mary is just haunted because people died on her.
Right.
And that is often true. We've discussed that before. It's pretty common that when people die, you have hauntings.
Right.
However, there are a lot of residual hauntings on board the Queen Mary that have nothing to do with whether or not the person died on that. And so both intelligent and residual hauntings are very common on the Queen Mary. And yeah. So they have been reporting paranormal activity on her since her arrival in Long Beach in 1967, and especially since the hotel opened in the 1980s. There were reports of both of seeing, feeling, and smelling. One of the common ghosts that are seen on the Queen Mary is Sir Winston Churchill.
Oh.
And everybody would be like, well, why would you see Winston Churchill? He didn't die on the ship. He loved that ship.
Boat.
It's the
He
Stanley
used-
Hotel situation.
Yeah,
Where people were
so-
just like, I loved being on that boat.
And that's a lot. They hear a lot of parties. You hear a lot of, they still do balls and stuff where it's kind of era specific. You
Yeah.
can dress up airily, whatever. Winston Churchill basically used the Queen Mary as a mobile command base
Yeah.
for almost all of World War II. Kind of like Air Force One at sea is what Gil
Compared
it to. Her immense size and speed made her nearly impossible to be sunk by the U-boats in the Atlantic. And during his voyages, Winston Churchill occupied cabin M119, which is currently known as the Churchill Suite in his honor. This cabin was his, I think it's displayed kind of as his preferred decor and layout. And he would be known to use this cabin several times during peacetime as well. He was like, I would like my cabin,
Can
please.
I have my room, please?
And you can request to stay in that cabin when you stay at the hotel. So we could, if we were to go, we could say,
stay in Churchill's room.
we would like the Churchill suite, please.
Excuse me, we would like to stay in the room that Winston stayed in.
Yes.
That sure would be interesting.
People over the decades have reported paranormal activity of a large gentleman occupying the space with them, often making his presence known with a strong stench of cigar smoke. The first report of this activity was in the early 2000s when a housekeeper was making her morning rounds and approached the door. Upon getting closer, she reported smelling cigar smoke coming from the cabin. The hotel is a non-smoking hotel, and so she immediately went to investigate. The housekeeper knocked on the door to announce her presence with no answer, and after moments of waiting and knocking, she keyed in and entered the space, announcing her presence to anyone in the room. Upon entering the space, she sees a large, portly gentleman sitting on the sofa, smoking a cigar without a care in the world. She approached him sternly and informed him that this is a non-smoking hotel and that he was not allowed to be in the space without a reservation. And as she started speaking, the gentleman seemed to be startled by her, having his morning interrupted. Gil goes, I wouldn't blame him. Like, what do you want, lady?
It's like, what are you doing in here?
Also, like, you don't walk into that room and go, oh my God, it's Winston Churchill.
The gentleman, without a word, stands
She's got a
up.
one-track mind. She's like, this
She's
man
like,
is motherfucking
he's
smoking.
I'm gonna get in trouble.
She's smoking on this. He's smoking on this historical ship. What the fuck?
So this gentleman stands up and, without saying anything, gives her a stern look and disappears into the portrait of Winston Churchill hanging in space.
And she goes,
How cartoonish.
she goes, oh my God, that was Winston Churchill.
She goes, shit.
Yeah.
I just got onto Winston Churchill.
I just yelled at former Prime Minister Winston Churchill.
That's funny.
Former Prime Minister because he's dead.
Yeah. That's funny.
But, he didn't die there. He does have a very strong emotional connection to the ship. He's not always there haunting, but when he is there, you know it because it always smells like cigars as part of his residual haunt. Shocking to no one, they have a lady in white on the Queen Mary. The lady in white is a common apparition of a young woman dancing alone in the public spaces of the ship, wearing a beautiful wedding gown. Her origins are unknown due to the fact that she doesn't match any of the ship records of a young woman around her age passing away, let alone a bride before a wedding. They believe this spirit might be a collection of memories during the war, the bride and baby shuttling that the Queen Mary did. So it's important to note especially like foreign brides coming to Europe or America. They still had to go through immigration. They still had to do all of those things. And so you have to be able to, like, the person you're supposed to be marrying has to show up. You have to have all your paperwork. And so it's a lot of emotions involved, which probably led to the excitement and hope and fear and all of those things of a young bride getting ready to return and being on board. So Gil said he did try communicating with said lady in white in the first class lounge. He asked if she would marry him. She said no. So now we're on part 3. We've done the first 2 parts of Gil's check Gil has sent me. I told you he sent me so much. We are now talking about the 3rd class. So decks M through B, the forward section of the boat.
Okay.
So towards the bow of the boat, towards the front. So the M deck, I've got 3 stories on 3 different decks. So the first is an apparition in the 3rd class garden lounge, now known as the Mauritania Room. Back in the 1990s, 2 employees entered this space to prepare for a private event. That as they entered on the starboard side of the ship, starboard, they noticed a young woman in 1930s dress sitting in a chair in the center of the room, facing the marquetry panel on the forward end. The 2 employees didn't know any better. They assumed she was a hotel guest who snuck in and was just admiring the art
Chillin'.
piece. So they started working around her and paid no attention to her. About 10 minutes later, the manager walks in to check on their progress. Upon entering, she sees the young woman and starts questioning the two as to why she's in there and why they didn't escort her out. Escort. The manager kindly walks up to the young woman and reminds her that this was a private venue and she needed to leave so they could continue to work. The young woman did not respond, completely ignored the manager. The manager, getting frustrated, attempts to get her attention
Reasonably.
2 more times before calling security. Totally valid.
Yeah.
Not mad. Like, that's super fair. As she picks up the phone to call security, the 3 employees report seeing the exact same thing. The young woman and the chair vanished into thin air. This apparition lasted approximately 10 minutes, the longest apparition ever recorded and seen aboard to date. They have no idea who the woman was. They assume she was a passenger that had passed years later and was coming back to visit the ship one more time.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of sweet.
Yeah.
So, the A deck has what they call the deadly staircase.
Oh.
Which seems, an odd thing to call a location on a ship, especially a liner the way that the Queen Mary was. If you were on a cargo ship, some of those staircases are perilous AF just by design.
Yep.
Even the Kennedy had some staircases that I was like, if I fall down this, I'm going to die. Due to some unfortunate circumstances, the Queen Mary was divided in 3 classes, first, second, and third. Steerage was done away with as a title shortly after World War I. So there is not a steerage class anymore. They just called it third class. Cunard divided the ship based on the smoothness of the ride from top to bottom. First class occupied the center of the ship, top to bottom, as that was the center of gravity and center of motion, so it was the smoothest ride. Second class was back aft, with the second smoothest ride with only the rumble of engines and propellers. Third class was up at the front of the ship, cheapest ticket, roughest ride. And rough is all personal. You could be in first class and still feel like it's rocking too much. Like, they did their best.
Yeah.
When they built the Queen Mary, they assumed she was too big to roll a whole bunch in the waves, and that she would be the most fastest and most comfortable liner ever built. Unfortunately, they were wrong. Upon
It's
entering,
almost like you built a bathtub.
Yeah.
Upon entering the service, it was discovered that she had a bad tendency to roll 15 to 20 degrees on either side in the calmest seas. Thus, she was given the nickname the Rolling Mary. With third class being up forward, you can only imagine the motion as the ship plowed across the ocean at 30 to 35
Proud
knots.
Mary, keep on rolling, 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 rolling on a river. Sorry, you said
It's fine.
everything about what you said was that.
Now, back to the staircase that we're talking about.
Stairs.
This staircase was built differently than the
It's
others.
built different.
It's built different.
It was facing forward at a 45-degree angle, unlike the other stair towers on the ship that went gradually at an angle and had landings. As the ship pitched up and down every few seconds, that stair tower can go from 45 degrees to nearly vertical, which led to 2 different deaths.
And that's why it's called the Deadly Staircase.
Goodness.
The first was an elderly woman who was going from M deck to A deck when the ship took a pitch and she lost her footing and was flung off the stairs. She was reported to hit her head and was found dead at the scene.
Yikes.
Hopefully she died instantly.
We can only hope.
We can only hope.
The second came approximately 10 years later. A gentleman by the name of George Sidney Wayman was going from A deck to B deck when he too lost his footing and fell down. He had a stroke and passed away on the deck landing.
Oh my God.
His spirit is often seen and heard late at night as disembodied footsteps going up and down the stair tower. Both guests and tour guides have reported hearing him at night during the nighttime paranormal tours.
He's practicing so he doesn't slip again.
That's a bummer. I'm sorry. These are bummers. It would
The old lady one was less of a bummer because it was just an old lady fell on the stairs and she died. This guy like had a stroke and now he's wandering around.
Now he's stuck there.
Forever.
So B340 is one of the most popular rooms on the ship. This room has gained so much attention that there have been countless reports, stories, and misinformation.
Ooh.
Because of course there's misinformation.
There's always misinformation.
We love misinformation.
So
we don't love misinformation. We love it from a paranormal like silly
debunk, silly
situation.
haha. Yeah. B340 is considered the most haunted room on the ship. Hotel room specifically. The origins of the spirit that haunt the space is unknown. Originally, this room was BTAC 338, BTAC 340, and BTAC 342, and later expanded into the current configuration when the ship arrived in Long Beach. So it was one of the ones remodeled during the hotel change. The first occurrence happened in 1963. A young woman by the name of W.T. Berry was occupying that cabin on her way across the Atlantic. One evening, she goes to bed. Upon falling asleep, she feels a strange presence in her room as if she's being watched.
A strange presence.
She wakes up to see a shadowy figure standing over her bed, and she screams for help. A steward not far away hears her cries for help and runs in to assist. She states a man was in her room without permission. The steward sweeps the cabin and surrounding spaces and finds nothing.
Yeah.
The steward reassures her that it must have been a nightmare, and she goes back to sleep. The steward goes and informs the purser about the incident. Upon further investigation, it turns out somebody did pass away in that cabin in 1949. Details about this death have been lost to history, as no official record of the passenger, their name, age, or cause of death. Only an entry in the ship's official logbook, man found dead, B340.
Wow.
So after this activity has gradually increased in this room since the Queen Mary's arrival in Long Beach, with people reporting different experiences, now not just of a man, but of a young child as well.
Oh.
And maybe that kid stayed in the same room and liked it as a little kid, and that's how they choose to come back and visit. Who knows?
Right.
We've seen that happen before.
Right.
The paranormal energy
Who's to say?
is the strongest for some reason. They're not really in that room, and they're not really sure why. Investigators have gone in, and they don't ever get an answer as to who that spirit is. But he will bother guests
The
in
kid?
that room. No, the man.
Oh, okay.
Like that man has a tendency to.
Huh.
They say attack and bother. My guess is there have probably been people that have been touched or scratched or something.
Attack and bother.
He clearly is like, just don't stay in here.
Leave me alone.
I would
I'm
like to.
trying to sleep.
I would like to be dead in peace. Thank you. This cabin, the misinformation about this cabin. There's a story on the internet for some reason of an axe murder that involved a family and a grandmother that they say took place on the ship. That's false.
Just not true.
That's just not true. He says this is public information and can be found on the internet with just a few minutes of research. Like, he's like, that's did not happen on this ship.
That's crazy.
So the axe murder that happened was a father that went crazy, murdered his whole family. I think it might be Velisca, TBH.
Visalia?
Visalia,
Yeah.
sorry.
Oh, no.
It's Velisca.
Sorry. There's okay, yes. There's the Visalia is another true crime thing. It is the Velisca Axe murder house.
Okay.
Sorry. You're right.
Okay.
There is also another murder thing in Visalia.
Okay, I was like, I thought I had that one right.
No, you're correct.
How would that connect to the Queen Mary? Apparently, the grandmother was traveling to the United States to visit the family on the Queen Mary, but she did not stay in B340. She stayed in probably, they say, B450 to B460, so somewhere in like a completely other floor, a different part of the vessel. And it doesn't have any relation to that room, but people love to spread
It's like
misinformation.
the dead nurses at Waverly Hills.
Yeah.
There's no record of that ever happening, but people are like, but it's spooky.
But people love to talk about it.
Gil says that he has never experienced anything in that space during his time aboard, but others have, with reports of chairs and tables moving around at night, knocking coming from the closet and bathroom doors. Apparently, this spirit used to be violent as well, sometimes with guests waking up with scratches or bruises.
Wow.
Oh, no.
And all of this just plays into the continued mystery of the cabin. And he was like, to be silly spooky, he was like, "Do you dare stay the night?" I'm like,
Yes.
"Try me."
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We'll stay 2 nights and just switch rooms.
Yeah, like, what do you mean? We'll stay in Winston Churchill's room, and then we'll stay in that room, and no one can stop us.
Yeah. We're going to pay for
No one can stop us now.
Okay, Mickey Mouse.
Sorry.
Part 4, the first class pool, which is probably the one that
Ooh.
most people know about. This is the haunting that the Queen Mary is popular for, especially on
Ghost shows.
paranormal television. So this particular space, the first class pool, has more activity than B340 actually does. This beautiful 2-deck tall room located midships is lined with new terracotta tile adorned with quartz and a faux mother of pearl ceiling to reflect the water. And it was a space for the guests to enjoy themselves as the ship sailed across the Atlantic. This space has a lot of paranormal activity, but no recorded deaths ever actually happened in this space. So throughout the ship's time in Long Beach, there has been a spirit who has gained a ton of popularity through pop culture, and that is a little girl named Jackie. Jackie is a unique spirit taking on the appearance of a young girl in a sailor's dress who will often interact with children. Her origins are...
She's a demon.
The origins are also unknown. We know she did not die aboard the ship, as there are no recorded deaths in this space. Some assume she was a passenger who traveled on board but passed away at a young age and thus came back to the ship for the happy memories. Some speculate she might be something else, something more powerful, which allows her to interact and communicate with the people. She is also noted to be the only spirit on the ship who can be seen off the vessel. Back in the 1980s, when the Queen Mary was accompanied by Howard Hughes' Spruce Goose, a security guard was making his rounds where the plane was on display. He noticed that a young girl was walking on the wing of the plane. He called out to her and demanded that she climb down before she got hurt. And the little girl responds and promptly jumps off the wing, only to vanish moments before touching the ground. After that, Jackie had been reported to play tag and hide and seek with the security guards in the dome, which the Spruce Goose was kept. Jackie to this day remains a popular topic on the ship, with people creating their own theories and, of course, some too inappropriate to tell the public. Which I'm like, brother, what does that mean? He did not tell me. Her presence is still felt and seen in the pool. She will often grab a parent's hand or play hide and seek with kids during tours. She's very popular on the ghost shows.
As I'd say, I think on Ghost Adventures,
Yes.
they were like, demons often manifest themselves as small children to trick you into a false sense of security. And so it's like, or it could just be a kid ghost.
It could just be a kid.
It could just be a kid.
Yeah.
The after engine room, which Gil said if he was allowed to, he could just give 2 hours worth of info. Like, he could do tours for 2 hours in just the engine room. Like, he could talk for hours about it. So, specifically, we're talking about watertight door number 13. If you don't know anything about watertight doors, they're
Spooky.
they are usually
big, heavy doors.
they're big, heavy doors, and depending on the age of your ship, can be mechanical. Whereas if an alarm is rung or figured out that there is water entering a space, the door will begin to shut automatically.
Yeah.
And will not stop. So if you are stuck in the door frame, you will die.
Did
You
they
will-
have automatic doors on the Mary? She does not seem new enough to have auto watertight doors.
I don't think it was auto watertight doors, but I
Okay.
will tell you what
Okay.
happened here in a
Okay.
second. But just know, automatic or mechanical or manual doors, once
They're
a
heavy doors.
once a watertight door is shutting, if you don't get out of the way, you're done for. They're heavy. The morning of July 10th, 1966, at 4:40 a.m., the Queen Mary was enveloped in a thick patch of fog. The captain ordered all watertight doors to be closed and the ship to slow down as a precaution.
Right.
At 4:45, the order was given and executed, slowly they were closing doors 1 through 38 in sequence. At 4:50, but door 13 did not close correctly. So the
Crazy that
officer
it's
of the
number
watch
13.
assumed a mechanical issue and called the engineers to fix the door. At 4:50 a.m., the engineers approached the door 13 located on the starboard side prop shaft alley. As they approached the door, they found a gruesome sight. A young 18-year-old engineer was caught crushed inside the door with his arms pinned against his side.
Yeah.
They opened the door and took his lifeless body and called the ship's doctor. Upon further investigation, he was pronounced dead at the scene, x-rays showing internal bleeding with broken shoulders, ribs, and hips. How he actually got caught is a big mystery because there weren't cameras, so nobody else was there to witness what happened.
Yeah.
The ship has come to suspect and accept 3 potential theories for what happened. So theory 1, he was moving from one compartment to the other while the door was closing and misjudged the timing. These watertight doors take less than 5 seconds to close, exerting over 800 psi.
Okay, so they are an automatic system then.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna say you can crush yourself in a watertight door if you're not fucking careful. If you're closing it.
Yeah. The second, he was playing a game of chicken, hopping in between the door to see how many times he could get it before it shut completely, and didn't make it, like a dummy. The third, he was the victim of a union dispute. 1966 was a turbulent year for shipping, unions going on strike for better wages, protections, and standards. The Cunard line was not immune to these strikes, and the Queen Mary, along with the Queen Elizabeth, were laid up. Cunard, being desperate to make profit and to continue keeping a schedule, resulted to find non-union workers in the industry they're called scabs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perhaps this young 18-year-old was looking for a job and saw that a position was open and crossed the picket line. The strike was over by late May, early June, and the crew came back to work. Some crew members who often saw outsiders as lower beings often mistreated those who betrayed their union. Some speculated that this young man was no different and faced ridicule and hazing from the senior staff for his actions, maybe to the point of killing him. Was the only way to get him off the ship permanently. Thus, that morning was the perfect setting to stage it as the door was closing, stuff his body in, and crush him. But with no mystery, with no witnesses, nobody that has said they witnessed it, his death remains a mystery to this day.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then Gil says one more piece of information specifically from him, so not anything related to any of the information coming from the vessel herself. He believes that the spirits that call the Queen Mary home are all benevolent. They are attracted to the happy memories that were once shared aboard when they had the honor of sailing. These spirits keep her company they kept her company when they weren't there during the pandemic, with only a skeleton crew of security guards. The security guards reported hearing people talking in cabins, music, and parties happening in the lounges and dining rooms. But once they opened the doors, the music stopped, revealing a dark, empty space devoid of anything. The last day we were open in March of 2020, her spirit died. No music, hallways dim, no one. She felt dead. But when we reopened in 2023, I saw the ship come back to life over the years, and now she's doing better than ever.
Oh.
And that's what I have about the RMS Queen Mary.
That's so sweet. That was a good ending note.
That was a good ending note. I am gonna say a thing though.
Yeah.
Say it.
So in 2020, the podcast that me and Mackenzie have both listened to, and that's why we drink, was on tour for their Here for the Booze tour.
Is that where they did their?
Yep.
Ugh.
Their investigation was on the Queen Mary.
Oh,
So
neat.
their tours that they used to do when they would tour, they would pick a haunted location and a true crime story from the area that they were going to.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fucking work. So
Yeah.
then instead they developed, they're like, oh, we'll do like an exclusive show format for the tour. And they were doing where they would go do a paranormal investigation somewhere,
Yeah.
and it would be a secret, and you were basically sworn to silence until the tour was over to say where it was.
Yeah.
And I saw one of the last shows that they did before COVID happened,
Wow.
because it was in 2020. It
I
was
remember
in like
when you went.
I remember when
February of 2020 that I
Yeah,
went to go
you
see it,
and
because it was me and
Kristen.
Tyra and Kristen
Mhm.
and I don't think Fernando went, and then like a couple of other people
Yeah.
were with us. Like it was a group, and it was on the Queen Mary, so it was like their investigation on the Queen Mary, which was really cool. It was really funny because they have like an assistant who works with them whose name is Eva, and she was still fairly new
Uh-huh.
when they were doing the investigation. And one of the things that it kept happening was whenever they would go like set up a camera somewhere and Eva had to do it by herself, she'd be like, "This is so scary. I am so scared." Like she would like sing
Have a
or
little
like
song.
or like whisper to herself, and then she had to go like, "Oh, I'm sorry, that was me. I was talking. That wasn't a ghost. That was me, Eva."
Eva's so funny.
So yeah, it was really cool. Like their investigation was really cool. They caught some weird voices, but mostly they just like had a good time.
Yeah.
So it was cool.
That's fun.
That's it.
I love it.
I learned a lot of the history
Okay.
stuff.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know most of the history stuff because again, I know about her from paranormal television, and there's only so much that they can tell you in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah. You know, that was all really neat.
Because most of the shit, like on Ghost Adventures, it's when they still have the Titanic stuff on board,
Yeah.
and so they're like, "This life jacket saved the life of a child."
Well, and they did a bunch of like Titanic-y experiments because there was, when the Titanic stuff was on board the Queen Mary, it was causing additional hauntings.
Yeah.
yeah,
because-
which makes sense.
Because it was, there was,
Titanic stuff.
well, not only that, they had legitimate Titanic artifacts with
Right.
that experiment, like exhibit.
Yeah.
And so, of course, there were specific spirits tied to that
Those
stuff. And so it affected their investigation because there was the double whammy of...
And I just remember when Ghost Hunters went,
Uh-huh.
it was like such a beast of like a tech setup that there was a significant portion of the episode dedicated to them just being like, we have to put up so many cameras.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
she's
It's a big
girl.
boat.
She's a big girl.
And there's so many spaces that are haunted that you're like, well, we can't just not put a camera in this hallway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't know like any of the history stuff, so that was cool.
That was all really neat.
Well, I hope everybody learned something. We would like to go to there at some point. We
I
will
would
go,
like to go to there.
I
We will
would
go
love
to
to go to
California
there.
and do a California run of haunted locations.
That'd be fun.
We'll have to do like a Southern California trip and then a Northern California
Yeah.
trip.
No, I'm
Yeah.
not saying one
We
big
can't-
trip.
there's
But
so
Multiple
many.
trips.
Like,
I hope everybody enjoyed this.
I enjoyed it a lot.
I had fun.
I think that's all you need to know until we go visit.
Yeah.
About
So
the
we
Queen
go into
Mary.
our own investigation.
And I can't wait to see you next week for something else weird.
Thanks for listening.
This podcast is for weirdos.
Are you a weirdo?
Thursdays are for the phenomena.